Hello, Carol.
Hello, Lou.
Hello.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. And this is our chat with Carol and Lou on
Yes,
Remembrance Sunday, a
yes,
day which people will be honouring those who have fallen in
mhm,
wars and those who've given their life, particularly in the First World War, where soldiers gave their life for freedom and for peace. And that
yes,
is, something that we all respect and we all honor because that is something that particularly you and I, Carol, we really value.
hmm hmm
We're, we've connected under principles of peace and love and unity and community and coming
hmm
together. So this talk, we've decided we've had a chat because we are both of us are really, really sad, heartbroken about the current state of things in the world. A lot of our talks have been quite ranty, but we we kind of have come to a place where we're beyond anger in terms of what's happening. We're in a place where we're quite we're sad, but we're also quite accepting of what we're bearing witness to. So this talk is going to be called "Bearing Witness" and "Cannon Fodder." So cannon fodder is a term that has often been used to describe, so the definition was given was soldiers who are regarded or treated as expendable in battle. So soldiers. So again, it's Remembrance Sunday. So a lot of the fallen soldiers that we remember and that were taken from many homes and families and went to battle never to return. They were very young men. They were often young men in the prime of their life, and they fought courageously for freedom and for the greater good. So we do really respect the lives that have been taken. Um, so today, with regards to Palestine
yeah,
and Gaza and the people of Israel and how they've suffered, um, the soldiers are not young men. The average age of those being murdered at the minute in Gaza is 5. Okay, so the cannon fodder has changed. The cannon fodder is no longer young men. It is children and it is the future generations. And that's hard to watch.
yes,
So
Lou.
while,
Yeah.
yeah. So while we in
Mhm.
Remembrance Sunday remember the fallen, was it in vain? That's what I want to know. Because when we're witnessing the murdering of newborn babies and we're witnessing the murdering of children on all sides, can we really say anybody won? And that is why we have come to have this conversation. And the grief is extreme for many of us. But I cannot, I cannot believe what we are bearing witness to. And I cannot believe that in this century, it's children who are the cannon fodder.
Yeah. Yes, Lou. It is extremely hard to watch. What is more extremely hard to watch is that the leaders in this world seem to think that it's acceptable, and that is really scary. That many leaders, including our own in Britain, are supporting the fighting of this war like it's necessary. And how no one is stepping in to bring an end to this so that children are not daily being murdered is beyond my belief. But my personal spiritual thinking on it is if this keeps going on, more and more people around the world are going to feel their pain. The pain that's coming out of that war, not just on one side, on both sides of the ordinary people, is tangible throughout the world, and people are standing up to protest against it. But our leaders need to join that protest to bring peace. Until world leaders start calling for peace, how can we follow them into war? And that's
Well,
my thoughts on it.
well, again, they're not even close to doing that. I mean, Joe Biden was asked. Joe Biden, who's been very, he's very vocal about the Good Friday Agreement.
Yeah,
I mean, you need to check yourself there in America in terms of, are you peace loving people? Because if a reporter asks you, will Israel ever call for a ceasefire, and you say no, never, what is your stance on genocide then? What is your stance on children being murdered? What is your stance on peace? Because you seem to be for it in Northern Ireland, which, yeah, I'm very grateful for. I'm all for peace in this island. But what is your stance with regards to peace in the Middle East, in Israel? Because you can't be peace one moment and then okay with the mass slaughter of a people the other. It just doesn't work like that. Integrity must reign supreme. And if you're going to have integrity, you must be consistent. And that is not consistent. And as for what is happening in Westminster, well, they're doing what they always do, which is just behave like absolute privileged, nonsensical thugs who have no morals. What was said about what Suella Braverman did this week, how she is not arrested for inciting hatred, I do not know. There has got to be some level of accountability at the top and with those with a bit of power. But morals seem to not be their thing. Integrity is not even a language or a thought process, it's not even involved in it. But surely inciting hatred that openly and that succinctly should be there should be something done about that. I don't want to pay, like, the people in England have to pay for the Met Police to deal with the fallout that she created.
yes. Well, we have to bring that even further. The leaders of the whole world are so intent on fighting and battling to own, to hold, to make money, to be the most powerful, that they are killing the children and the ordinary people to gain that. And that is somewhere where we all need to stand up and join together. We can no longer be led into the abyss by people who don't care about anything, only power and money. Why do we follow them? Why do we vote for them? It's long past time that both the Tories and the inefficient politicians and MLAs in Northern Ireland woke up to what people really want, which is peace
Well,
and a future for their children.
well, this is where we're gonna be waving goodbye to a future for our children, because
Hmm.
there's the climate and ecological crisis, the planetary emergency.
Yeah.
Every war that breaks out, that stalls that climate action even more. It sweeps
Hmm.
it under the carpet. It kicks it further down the line. And yet we are seeing with Newry and the floods, with Lough Neagh, even Dira, the climate deniers of the past, are
Yeah.
saying that, yeah, this is climate change. So we have that crisis. And with every war that breaks out, with it delays that action. When an Israeli um, minister says that it is there's potential that we could use nuclear weapons, and I think he was suspended, but there's potential, and then that was encouraged by a lot of people.
Hmm.
They don't seem to understand that nuclear, if you drop a nuclear bomb in Gaza, that energy doesn't just stay in Gaza. That has a ripple effect And that's why in our thousands, in our millions, we are all Palestinians. This war, the ripple effects they are creating immigrants. So while the far right are in support of Israel, they seem to forget that they're also anti-immigration. But their leader is encouraging the mass displacement of people, which is therefore creating millions of immigrants. Such a lack of thought. So the reason
Hmm.
people aren't organizing, the reason people aren't able to come together is because they're not educated and they're being used as cannon fodder in a very, very dirty political game. It's a dirty political game, and the game is wealth, power, and profit at the cost of good people. They don't care about, she doesn't care about
No.
far right activists or those protesters who are going to get arrested and going to get a criminal record and are going to become even more disenfranchised and radicalized. She doesn't care about them. That all works in her favor. She's protected. She'll make a lot of money. She'll do all right. But at what
Yeah.
cost?
Yeah, well, you see, that is the problem with the working classes. They need to wake up and see how oppressed and used they are actually being in this whole scenario. All those people out there on the street yesterday protesting on the far right, they came out on her calling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for what? Nothing was happening. Everything was peaceful. She called them out onto the street. And as you say, they all get a criminal record now. And she doesn't care. And if you bring that down even into the streets where we live, right? I live in a very working class area. And this war, which is horrendous for both sides, is creating division within Northern Ireland. It is recreating division because the majority of Protestants and loyalists, because they are British, have to find themselves thinking they have to take the British stance, which is siding with Israel. But the Catholic population here, who have been oppressed, who have had their country colonised, they understand the pain of oppression. And
Mm-hmm.
of course, they are going to side with Gaza. And I myself, even though I'm a Protestant sitting in a Protestant estate, I cannot fail to see what is happening in front of my eyes, and it's horrendous. And I call for peace.
I called for peace.
And if the people, all of the people, could get together and call for peace, we could bring an end to these kind of things. But unfortunately, they're great manipulators, the people in power, and they will divide us all so that we cannot stand up. If we all stood together, there are 7 million people on this earth, and very few of them are the leaders. If we all stood together, they would lose their power. But they're very good manipulators. We are all divided and broken.
Yeah.
So we need to stand up and work together to bring peace for our children and grandchildren. And that's where I am on this.
Yeah.
So, Lloyd, what's your thoughts on the way forward?
Thoughts on the way forward. People don't like it whenever I am very clear on what I think we're bearing witness.
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I think we're bearing witness, and there's going to be more wars,
Mm-hmm.
and there's
Mm-hmm.
going to be, and it's just going like Loch Ness, like that's what I'm like. There's nothing being done to stop pollution. People don't
No.
care enough, and they're not educated enough, and they're not willing to put their grievances aside, put their differences aside, and organize. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to keep banging the drum and keep saying what I say, but
It's
I
just
get
going in
treated.
my head, if people won't get together and say enough, we want peace, are they condoning the using of those children?
Oh yeah, you're silent.
Caring for.
Yeah, if you're silent on the murdering of children, you're on the side of the oppressor. You're complicit. If you're
Yeah.
silent, But that we've seen that. Like, if you're silent in
Mhm.
terms, and that's Desmond Tutu, when there's injustices
Yes,
happening, your
yep,
silence only ever strengthens this side
big
of
pressure.
it will, because they'll just
Yeah,
take that as silence as condonance. So if you
yeah.
only have certain numbers resisting, but even
Mhm.
when you have masses of numbers resisting, the powers that be don't listen. So I
No.
would ask people to pay attention. I'd say,
Yeah,
yeah, pay attention and and notice what happens, and
mhm.
notice where their energy goes. Why have they
Yeah,
always got money for wars? Wars are profitable.
yeah.
Why is America, Joe Biden, supporting that? I'm sure a lot of those bombs dropping will have an American stamp on them.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Industries. So wars are profitable. And it will only, and then,
People are expendable.
right,
Yeah,
certain people more than others. So it depends on the color of your skin, it depends on your religion, it depends on who you are. So
yeah.
the imperialist, white supremacist, capitalist patriarchy is alive and well.
Killing us.
And we're paying for it. I'm
Yeah,
paying for this.
yeah. We pay taxes to buy bombs.
Taxes, rates, you name it, and every single one of them who is not openly stepping out for
Mhm.
peace is complicit and is condoning and supporting the slaughtering of children.
Yeah, and they're paying for it
And
with
then
with
we
their
get
taxes.
unfriended, and we get cold crazy, and we
Yeah,
get silenced, and we get bullied, even by those who are supposed to be supporting us. If we,
yeah.
so there you go. That
Well, when I'm on my deathbed, I will be able to say to my grandchildren, I spoke out.
I
I
tried.
did.
I tried.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. So now I'm going to take us forward a wee bit. We have talked a bit in the past about getting into politics a bit more,
Mhm.
right? So I have, over the past few days, realized that the reason why the leaders are as they are is because good people don't try to lead. Women, or very few leaders are women, and if they are, they tend to be of the very patriarchal type. Is it time for women to step forward and join political parties and try to have an influence on how this world is led?
Well, there are quite a few trying, and there are
Hmm.
quite, they are trying to get more women in politics. But again, I think I'm a political and environmental activist, water protector, and
And
I,
I have done all those things.
yeah, and I what, and I look around me and I observe, and I don't know. I think women are getting in, and they are like,
Hmm.
we've still yet to see an American president, female president. We've had
Hmm.
a few female prime ministers.
Hmm.
Um,
Well, not of the caring type.
but I don't think you can be caring and have integrity. And
Yeah.
I don't think you can succeed in that political
In
system.
that political, yeah, if you're, yes,
You will have compassion fatigue. You're more sensitive. You're more emotional. You're more heart
yeah.
centered. I don't think you would be
So
a
where can people make a difference?
community grassroots activism. They need to get out, feet to the street, and they need to get.
Yeah,
They need to speak truth to power.
yeah,
They need to speak truth and disrupt the comfortable. And I don't mean with any. I mean by very peaceful protest meth. They have to. They're too comfortable. Those in power are far too comfortable, and they are not held to account. Like, you look
no,
at it at this point in time. Um, you can't hold people to account within the system. The system protects the system.
mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that
So
was our last discussion, yes, and that's the conclusion we came to. You
So
can't get at them because they support and defend each other.
So be creative. Be creative,
Yeah.
be innovative, and use and challenge. And
Yeah.
Facebook posts aren't enough, but there are some incredible beautiful, peaceful protests happening,
Yes.
and organizing. People are organizing, so get involved.
Yeah.
I wouldn't always agree with people for profit. I would challenge them, but they have been leading a lot on this. But the Green Party are also stepping up in terms of peaceful and peace,
Uh-huh.
promoting peace.
Yeah.
SDLP would be, I think, are quite a peace-loving party, but I do not believe in that political system to affect change. I believe all change, all meaningful, sustainable change comes from grassroots. It comes from people. It comes from mothers. It comes from those
Yes. I
staying
think that is
local.
one of the most powerful group of people on this planet is mothers.
Yeah, and grannies. Oh God, you don't want to
Grannies.
mess with grannies.
No.
Grannies are
No.
great. Like they're like,
So can I just say to all the grannies out there and the mothers, get out to these protests. We need peace for the future.
or start grannies for peace. Grannies for
Ah,
peace.
wow. Now you might have put an idea in my head.
Yeah, grannies for peace.
Grannies for peace.
Grannies demand peace. Grannies
Yeah.
demanding it. Or grandparents
Um,
for peace. You know what
yeah.
I mean?
Yes.
I do think the older generations have the wisdom that's often not valued, and
Uh-huh.
they are very powerful. Now, they've been very powerful in Extinction Rebellion when they were all getting arrested. So they,
Yes.
so
I saw a thing on my Facebook the other day and it said, life in prison isn't a deterrent for me anymore because the life ain't that long anymore.
I think
And that was coming from the elders.
I think
Yeah.
the elders are very important, and if you look at who has the power,
Mm-hmm.
often well, I don't actually think our political leaders have the power at the minute in terms of
Mm-hmm.
I think big business does. So if you look at the climate and ecological crisis, actually
Yes.
they're expecting the fossil fuel companies to help transition. They've got the most power in terms of the climate and ecological.
Yeah.
So people need to pay attention that actually our governments are often more performative. It's political performative actions.
Yes. But
And
they are not the power behind it.
well, if you look at the COVID inquiry and who are the messages and who are the advisors to these people? Who are they having meetings with? The COVID inquiry at the minute is showing that the Conservatives were in power, but actually it was a complete mess. And they were
Uh-huh.
in meetings with big business, and their advisors were completely head and hands. This is an absolute mess. That is
Uh-huh.
government. So it's like the theater of the absurd. It's like a theater. It's like a
Yeah.
pantomime that's playing out. But
Yeah.
actually, wealth and the power is in these capitalists. It's with big business. So who
Yes.
is making a lot of money? Also, you look at the Suella Braverman. Okay, she incited hatred. Very clear.
Mm-hmm.
And
Big time.
she also took a swipe at the unionist loyalist population about the hate marches in Ulster. When she said
Uh-huh.
hate marches in Ulster, she wasn't referring to the civil rights marches. And she clarified
Which
this.
is what I immediately thought, and that
Yes,
right, you're out of order there, but yeah.
she was referring to the unionists and loyalists who've been loyal to Westminster, and that is the level
Yeah.
of respect that she shows to those people. Because
Yeah.
she knows in England, people are not educated on Northern Ireland, nor do they care. So when she
No.
took a swipe, right, she incited
Mm-hmm.
hatred within the far right, the disenfranchised
Yeah.
working class within England, and she also incited hatred, but they didn't understand it wasn't at them within the Ulster Unionists, but it was actually the loyalist and unionist population she was referring to as hate marchers.
Right.
That's how
Okay.
she's
That's
inciting hatred into,
everywhere.
but they will think the loyalists and unionists will think she's referring to.
Yeah. So yeah,
So
they don't
that's
get it.
really manipulative. What she did was
Yeah.
incredibly
But
manipulative.
that's what our leaders do. They manipulate hate within the people they claim to be representing.
Okay, but then how much money is now going to be spent out of the public purse to investigate and put all of those people who she incited to behave in that way through
Yeah.
the criminal justice system, and
Yeah.
they're all paying for that. So that'll
Yeah.
be millions upon millions of investigation, legal processes
Yeah.
to take them through to criminalize the very people she antagonized.
She incited them. Yeah, absolutely.
So why is she not being
In jail.
investigated?
In jail. Because
Because
if I did
she is
it, I'd be in jail.
but she is protected under law, and they have greater politicians are allowed to, they're not supposed to exercise it, they're supposed to have integrity, but clearly
I
many.
mean, all through COVID and the behaviour of the people in this country in Westminster and how they behaved, they've shown what idiots they are, and yet people keep voting for them.
Idiots?
That's what I don't get.
Are they idiots though?
No, they're just arrogant in their power.
They're arrogant, they're entitled, and they're privileged. They're elitist, and then they often make the most money post office. So if you look at even Tony Blair, who was
Yeah,
Labour leader, he
yeah.
is now, and he was Iraq War. Okay, lots of cash
Yes,
for
I
it.
remember it. I remember watching it on the TV.
I
Yes,
marched in London too,
yeah,
saying don't attack Iraq. Anyway, and they were
yeah,
lying about weapons of mass
yeah.
destruction. They were
Absolutely.
lying. So, and they nothing happened to him because he's a Labour leader. He is now a property tycoon. Couldn't write it.
Oh, no, you couldn't write it.
There's not a moral amongst them.
You know, I keep thinking of that thing that comes up on Facebook now and again, and it shows all the people underneath the Monopoly board and all the big fat cats sitting playing Monopoly, and it said, just stand up and you'll ruin the game.
There you go. So people going to rise. Grandparents for peace. That's what we want.
Yeah,
We want grandparents. We want like the the Granham Common and all that. There, all of those protests.
I
All
went
peaceful.
to Menwith Hill, and you know, the people at that protest, Menwith Hill was the big golf balls, the
Yeah.
American spy stations.
Yeah.
I was driving across the Yorkshire Moors and I spotted their caravans. And I was with my parents and I made them stop. They were horrified. And I went and I sat in the caravan. I talked to those women, and you know something? I'd have moved in and lived with them and joined them. Only I had to come home. They are amazing.
Brilliant. Well, they are people, peaceful people and loving people, and
Oh, yeah,
generally in the
yeah,
peace movement and the environmental movement, they often
yeah,
intersect. They're generally very good. And these issues transcend all other issues. All of us want our children to have a good
mm-hmm.
life. Right, let's come together on that. Our children and our grandchildren. Let's come together on
Yeah. Let's start that movement. Grandmothers for Peace. And we'll let mothers in too.
that.
The future grandmothers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay. Really good to hear from you again.
yeah. Peace, love, and hope. Hopefully, I have a bit
Absolutely.
more hope after talking to you, Carol.
Thank you, Lou.